All right, so this is going to be another bad movie review. There's a new Dungeons and Dragons movie coming out, so I decided to review the old one. I heard it was bad. I'd never seen it before today, though. So I thought I'd check it out. It's directed by Courtney Solomon. I hated this movie. I did not expect to hate it as much as I did. It is worse than I thought it was going to be in almost every way. Like, even some of the good things about it, or like the entertaining things about it, are bad. I'm going to try to get through, telling you what happens in this thing because there's a lot of terms and different things that, names that I'm trying to keep straight in my head. So, so Jeremy Irons plays Profion, right? And Bruce Payne is Damodar. That's his main henchman. He is starting off the movie trying to make a scepter. I believe he's trying to make it so that he can control the dragons, which is something that only the Empress can do of this kingdom, Ismir. I think that's how you say it. Empress Savannah is Savina is the only one that can actually control the dragon. She uses golden scepter to do that. I guess he's trying to learn how to do that himself. They live in a kingdom that has the mages be at the top, pretty much. There's even mages in the main council, right, for the Empress, and the rest of pretty much everybody else, they're seen as like the lower class, like they're the poor. And the Empress, she wants to, have equality between them all. But of course, Profion, the villain, doesn't want that. And it seems like the other mages in the council don't want that either. But whatever. So he tries to make that scepter. He tries to control the dragon. It fails. He kills the dragon and blatantly apes it from Return of the Jedi. It was so obviously the same as the Rancor death. There's definitely some Star Wars in here. We'll get back to that. We meet our hero, or heroes, I guess. That is Ridley, played by Justin Whalen, and Snails, his black sidekick, played by Marlon Wayans. They are thieves, and so they decide, because they hate mages, after they see the water is set on fire. That's what happened after the dragon died and the blood got in the water, whatever. They decide to steal from the mage school. So they go there, and they end up getting caught by Marina, played by Zoe McClellan, and she ties them up, things like that. But at that point, Damodar goes to the school too, because the Empress wants to find a scroll that was there so that it'll take them to the Eye of the Dragon. It's a ruby, it's a red ruby, and then they can use that to find the Rod of Surreal, which can control an army of red dragons. That's going to be happening at the end of the movie. It's a lot.
Over the past years, I have been searching for an ancient artifact called the Rod of Savril. It holds the same powers as your scepter, with one difference. It controls red dragons.
So Damodar, he attacks the school and everything, and Marina ends up getting away with Snail and Ridley. And so now they have a group. They also meet a dwarf. He's part of the group too, and they're after them. They're wanted, and Ridley and Snails, even though they're just thieves or whatever, they decide to help Marina to actually find the Eye of the Dragon. So they go to this other place to talk to this other. It's like this kind of marketplace type things. There's different creatures and things like that there, and they meet the guy that runs it. And in order to get that ruby, that thing that they need to go through a maze. So Ridley goes through the maze, and he's able to get the ruby after he's done. But then they get attacked again by the villain group. So then Marina gets captured. So then they have to go and rescue her, which feels like it's padding the runtime. They go to rescue her. Marlon Wayne's character Snails gets killed, and Ridley gets injured. Then, almost like Lord of the Rings, they take the Ridley back to the elves, right? One of the elves happens to be working for the Empress, and they heal him, give him a sword, and he decides to, keep going forward, even though Snails had just died. And he's sad about that, obviously, and he hates mages. He doesn't want to risk his life for them, but he'll do it anyway because he likes Marina. They're clearly, a kind of a thing at that point. And so, yeah, he decides to do it. So they end up finally going to actually get the rod, this special rod to control the red dragons. And I thought it was going to be in some area that has like lava around it, or something like some kind of castle. It's just a cave. They go to a cave, and he's the only one that's allowed in. He goes, he talks to a skeleton, and then he's able to get the rod. He doesn't have to do anything special to get it. It seemed like he just grabbed it. I guess maybe because he's special or something like that. And so he gets the rod, but then they get attacked by the villains again. And the main villain, the main henchman, Damodar, he ends up taking the rod and going into a portal to get back to Jeremy Irons' character. What's his name? Profion. I'm trying to keep these straight, these names and everything. And so Ridley follows him through the portal and gets back to where the mages and the Empress and everything are. I didn't even mention, so Profion this whole time has been sneaking around trying to get the Empress to give up her golden scepter or whatever it is that controls the dragons, so that he can take over or whatever. And when they get the rod, it actually unleashes the red dragons on the kingdom. The main henchman, he brings the rod to Jeremy Irons, and he's able to control the dragons now. Ridley and the main henchman get into a fight. Ridley defeats him, and then he fights Profion or Jeremy Irons, and he takes the rod, he destroys it, and then Jeremy Irons' character Profion gets eaten by a dragon, and that's pretty much it. Positives, and some of these are going to be backhanded. Like I said, I hated this. I not just didn't like it, I hated this thing. I wanted it to be over so bad. But positives, I thought it had a pretty good score. I think it fits the tone of the movie for the most part. It's a bit much and kind of cheesy at times, but it works. It mostly works. There's one scene that I legitimately liked. Not so bad as good. I legitimately liked it. When Ridley has to go through a maze. The maze, I talked about it earlier. The maze to get the eye of the dragon, whatever, the ruby, the red rock or whatever. He's a thief, so he's quick on his feet, right? He's doing, certain acrobatic moves and things like that to get through certain traps. He's kind of cunning in a way where he throws certain things to set off the traps so he knows what to do. I like that. Like, that was the one time where I was like, hey, this is kind of entertaining. Like, I kind of like this. I wish the whole movie was like this, but it's not. Here come the kind of semi-backhanded compliments, I guess. It is refreshing in 2023 to see a movie that has all this practical stuff going on, right? They're obviously, they shot on location, there's certain sets and things like that. And they have, certain props and things. It's not just a bunch of green screen stuff, which is actually kind of a good thing for this, because when they do use CGI, it looks fucking terrible. And we will get back to that a little bit more later, especially in those establishing shots. That looks really bad. But yeah. Even though the movie looks very cheap and the practical stuff doesn't look all that great, it actually looks pretty bad. It is a little refreshing to see it. And then also, the dialogue, the writing, it is abysmal. Pretty much everybody gives a bad performance. But these actors are really trying, especially Jeremy Irons. People always talk about him, right? When people say this movie's so bad it's good, they're talking about him. Because every time he's on screen, he completely steals the show. Like, he takes over the movie. He is hamming it up. He is doing way too much. way too much. He is probably the most stereotypical evil villain that you can think of for a movie. But he puts so much into it that he ends up still being entertaining, right? Even when it's terrible, he is he's just that good, I guess, at being bad.
I can crush the Empress. I control what is rightfully mine. You don't like that, do you? Good. I can use every ounce of your rage. Come on. You can run, your ladyship, but you'll never run far enough. Let their blood rain from the sky!
Where do I even begin? I guess we can start off with the main character, or really we could just talk about the main group, I guess. Not really much to say about Marina. I mean, she's just there. She's a love interest. She gets captured at one point to pad out the runtime, so she's not really much. But Justin Whalen, Ridley, the main character, and Snails, they are in another movie from everybody else. Really, the direction is bad to where a couple of characters feel like they're from other movies. but especially those two. So Ridley is very obviously supposed to be some version of Han Solo, right? I mentioned the Rancor thing before. There's definitely Star Wars stuff, especially with him. He definitely feels like that rogue type of character, only he doesn't have any charisma at all. He clearly has kind of a Han Solo and Princess Leia thing going on with Marina, where they argue and they have a lot of tension, almost like they don't like each other. But then eventually they give in to that tension actually being an underlying romantic thing. It's very obvious. I mean, you see certain interactions, and it's like this is ripped straight from Empire Strikes Back, like completely. But the dude has no charisma. He is boring. He's the main character, and I kept forgetting his name. So he's not good. Marlon Wayans is a stereotype, a complete stereotype, and he feels like he could have been in anything. It doesn't even have to be like a fantasy movie or anything like that. He's just being the stereotypical black character, and that's it. These two, they are doing their own little shtick. They're doing their own thing, and it's not working. They're actually pretty annoying.
That's an interesting sentiment coming from a guy who steals things for a living.
Yeah, well, have you ever heard of honor amongst thieves? We might live outside the law, but we respect each other.
Yeah.
Unlike a bunch of backstabbing mages.
Nobody really comes out of this unscathed, right? The performances are bad, so the direction is bad, right? That's what gives it the feeling of just being all over the place and messy, especially when it comes to the characters that are poorly developed anyway. There's a dwarf character. I don't remember his name. He's barely in the movie, barely does anything. He has a few lines here and there. But what really kills it when it comes to these characters is how terrible the dialogue is. The dialogue is so fucking bad. It was line after line after line where I was like, ugh, that doesn't feel like it fits here at all.
You're supposed to put some kind of holding spell into that bracelet! Yeah, that must be the only way she can get guys to come home with her.
I'd have to put a feeble mind spell on myself to want to take you home.
That was funny.
You're going to the city dungeon.
That wasn't.
All this is so bad on so many levels, right? The like I said, the movie feels padded. At first, it feels like the pacing is too fast, where it's like, wow, you're just throwing names out there, and I don't really know what's happening or getting a grasp on things. But then it gets to the point where Marina gets captured and certain things happen, and it's like, man, this movie is taking fucking forever, right? A major character dies, Marlon Wayans' character. You're thinking, okay, we're towards the end of the movie, right? Like we're pretty much going toward it. No, now they have to go to the elves. They have to have this romantic scene with Ridley and Marina, and then they have to go to the dungeon still and things like that before we finally get to the ending and the climax and everything. It's like, man, I thought we were winding down already. It's like the movie just feels so long. I think it's like like an hour and 40 or something. It feels longer than that. It feels like 2.5 to 3 hours. I mean, it feels like at least 2.5 hours. Like, it's bad. So that didn't work. Like it was really dragging, and I wanted to turn it off so bad. Right? It was around the time Marlon Wayans' character got killed, and I was like, man, there's still this much left in the movie. I want to turn this off. The costume design is bad. Along with the characters feeling like they don't really fit together or fit in the same movie. The costume design really threw me off. Marina feels like she's wearing things at certain points that feel like they're almost like just with a tweak they could almost be modern. Ridley and Snails, so Justin Whalen and Marlon Wayans, they're wearing rags, so they're clearly or kind of raggedy stuff, so they're poor to show that they're poor, and that's why they're thieves. But then you got the villain group, and they look like action figures. They really do, right? It looks ridiculous, especially the main guy, the main henchman, with the coloring on his lip and everything like that. He's got these veins popping through his head because he has this bad effect of whatever the fuck it is in his head to keep him from failing Jeremy Irons again. Every time I saw the villain group in those outfits, it just looks ridiculous, and it clashes with everything around them.
Do not let them escape, or you will suffer a fate far worse than that which hath been inflicted upon me.
I was just so bored and not really able to piece things together with all these names and all these different things. Got to get this scepter to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. And, I didn't really fully understand what was really going on until the very end. And the ending is bad anyway. I already said the CGI is bad. Man, the dragons look and that's the movie starts with a dragon too. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't look good. Hopefully we keep that to a minimum. Oh no, the full armies, two full armies just flying through the air. These two dragons, these two dragon armies. And man, that looked bad. That looked horrendous, embarrassingly bad. I understand this is an old movie, but shit, it has aged horribly. That looked really bad. I'm not invested in what's going on. Jeremy Irons is kind of entertaining because he's really hamming it up. But man, I just did not give a fuck. The main character's lame. He's Han Solo without the charisma. Marlon Wayans is the black stereotype, sidekick or whatever. Nothing of what he says is amusing or funny. They're both obnoxious. Most of the characters are forgettable. Some of them don't even do anything really in the story, like that dwarf. The effects look awful. The costume design and everything looks really cheap. The CGI looks so bad when it comes to the dragons. I'm just not invested. Jeremy Irons is entertaining in a bad way, but everything else is just awful. I hated this. I wanted it to be over so bad. Hopefully that new movie is at least better than this. It would be impossible not to be better than this. I was going back and forth between trash and my bottom rating, and I hated this so much on so many levels. I decided to just go with my bottom rating. I'm giving this complete shit. This is dog shit, man. I'm sorry. I was shocked at how bad this was, man. Like, I've been hearing so much about it, and it was all true. But anyway, that's Dungeons and Dragons from 2000, and we're done.